Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to day 32 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5. Today we are starting chapter 19, titled A Description of the Island of Jambudvip. First of all, our prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyachadi Jatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Right, devotees. So chapter 19, a description of the island of Jambudvip. There are 31 verses in this chapter, which we've divided into 4 sections as follows. First section is verses 1 to 8, and it's titled, In Kim Purusha Varsha, Hanuman and his associates always serve and glorify Lord Ram. Then the second section is from verse 9 to verse 11, and it's titled, Lord Narayan appears in Bharatvarsha to favor his devotees. Then the third section, verse 12 to verse 15, Narada Muni worships Narayan by mantra. And then the final section, 4, verse 16 to verse 31. So it's half the whole chapter, and it's titled, The Glories of Birth in Bharatvarsha. So you can see that the first couple of sections or so, maybe all but the last one, we'll see as we go through. They're very similar in sort of nature, in mood, to chapter 18, where in different of the Varshas, different great personalities, they and their associates were worshipping and glorifying certain very great personalities, like the last one was Bhumi, is worshipping Lord Varaha, Bhumi and her associates. Right, anyway, let's start. First section, in Kim Purusha Varsha, Hanuman and his associates always serve and glorify Lord Ram, verse 1 to 8. So let's go through the verses first of all. Verse 1, Srila Shukadev Goswami said, My dear king, in Kim Purusha Varsha, the great devotee Hanuman is always engaged with the inhabitants of that land in devotional service to Lord Ramachandra, the elder brother of Lakshman and dear husband of Sita Devi. Verse 2, a host of Gandharvas is always engaged in chanting the glories of Lord Ramachandra. That chanting is always extremely auspicious. Hanumanji and Arshtishena, the chief person in Kim Purusha Varsha, constantly hear those glories with complete attention. Hanuman chants the following mantras. Right, so let's see here, verse 3. Let me please worship your lordship by chanting the Bija mantra Omkar. I wish to offer my respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, who is the best among the most highly elevated personalities. Your Lordship is the reservoir of all the good qualities of Aryans, people who are advanced. Your character and behavior are always consistent, and you always control your senses and mind. Acting just like an ordinary human being, you exhibit exemplary character to teach others how to behave. There is a touchstone that can be used to examine the quality of gold, but you are like a touchstone that can verify all good qualities. You are worshipped by Brahmins, who are the foremost of all devotees. You, the Supreme Person, are the King of Kings. And therefore I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Verse 4. The Lord, whose pure form, Satchitananda Vigraha, as stated by Brahma Samhita verse 1, whose pure form is uncontaminated by the modes of material nature, can be perceived by pure consciousness. In the Vedanta, he is described as being one without a second. Because of his spiritual potency, he's untouched by the contamination of material nature. And because he is not subjected to material vision, he is known as transcendental. He has no material activities, nor has he a material form or name. Only in pure consciousness, Krishna consciousness, can one perceive the transcendental form of the Lord. Let us be firmly fixed at the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra, and let us offer our respectful obeisances unto those transcendental lotus feet. Verse 5. It was ordained that Ravana, chief of the Rakshasas, could not be killed by anyone but a man. And for this reason, Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appeared in the form of a human being. Lord Ramachandra's mission, however, was not only to kill Ravana, but also to teach mortal beings that material happiness centered around sex life, or centered around one's wife, is the cause of many miseries. He is the self-sufficient Supreme Personality of Godhead, and nothing is lamentable for him. Therefore, why else could he be subjected to tribulations by the kidnapping of Mother Sita? Right, verse 6. Since Lord Sri Ramachandra is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudev, he is not attached to anything in this material world. He is the most beloved supersoul of all self-realized souls, and he is their very intimate friend. He's full of all opulences. Therefore, he could not possibly have suffered because of separation from his wife, nor could he have given up his wife and Lakshman, his younger brother. To give up either would have been absolutely impossible. Verse 7. One cannot establish a friendship with the Supreme Lord Ramachandra on the basis of material qualities, such as one's birth in an aristocratic family, one's personal beauty, one's eloquence, one's sharp intelligence, or one's superior race or nation. None of these qualifications is actually a prerequisite for friendship with Lord Sri Ramachandra. Otherwise, how is it possible that although we uncivilized inhabitants of the forest have not taken noble births, although we have no physical beauty, and although we cannot speak like gentlemen, Lord Ramachandra has nevertheless accepted us as friends. Verse 8. Therefore, whether one is a demigod or demon, a man or a creature other than man, such as a beast or bird, everyone should worship Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears on this earth just like a human being. There is no need of great austerities or penances to worship the Lord, for he accepts even a small service offered by his devotee. Thus he is satisfied, and as soon as he is satisfied, the devotee is successful. Indeed, Lord Sri Ramachandra brought all the devotees of Ayodhya back home, back to Godhead, Vaikuntha. Yes, so that's the end of that section. Let's go back. Here we are. Beginning of the section, beginning of the chapter. So we'll go through now with the purports. Verse 1. Srila Shukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, in Kimpurusha Varsha, the great devotee Hanuman is always engaged with the inhabitants of that land in devotional service to Lord Ramachandra, the elder brother of Lakshman and dear husband of Sita Devi." There's no purport here. So we'll just go on to verse 2. A host of Gandharvas is always engaged in chanting the glories of Lord Ramachandra. That chanting is always extremely auspicious. Hanumanji and Arshtashena, the chief person in Kimpurusha Varsha, constantly hear those glories with complete attention. Hanuman chants the following mantras. Right, so devotees, the mantras, beginning with verse 3. So this is interesting though. In the purport of verse 2, Prabhupada explains, in the Puranas, there are two different opinions regarding Lord Ram. And this is confirmed in Laghu Bhagavatamrita by Srila Rupa Goswami, chapter 5, verses 34 to 36, in the description of the incarnation of Manu. So there's a paraphrasing, not a direct translation of these three verses from Laghu Bhagavatamrita, and some explanation based on the commentary of Srila Baladeva Jabushan. So it says, this is what Laghu Bhagavatamrita says. The Vishnu Dalmotara describes that Lord Ramachandra and his brothers, Lakshman, Bharat and Shatrughna, are incarnations of Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha, respectively. So Lakshman is Sankarshan, Pradyumna is Bharat, Aniruddha, Shatrughna. The Padma Purana, however, says that Lord Ramachandra is an incarnation of Narayan, and that the other three brothers are incarnations of Shesha, Chakra, and Shankar. Right. So that's sort of paraphrasing, basically, of the first two verses, actually. Yes. So Baladeva Jabushan has concluded, Tadidam kalpa bedinaiva sambhavyam, which means these opinions are not contradictory. In some millenniums, Lord Ramachandra and his brothers appear as incarnations of Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, and in other millenniums they appear as incarnations of Narayan, Shesha, Chakra, and Shankar. So that's commentary on the first two verses. The third verse, there's now a translation, really, or paraphrasing, of the third verse, which begins, Madhyadesha stita yodhya, etc. So, what it says is, the residence of Lord Ramachandra on this planet is Ayodhya. Ayodhya city is still existing in the district of Faizabad, which is situated on the northern side of Uttar Pradesh. And that Ayodhya is Mahavaikuntha Loka. Yes, it's Vaikuntha, but it's the highest part. Verse 3, let me please your lordship by chanting the Bija mantra Omkar. I wish to offer my respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, who is the best among the most highly elevated personalities. Your lordship is the reservoir of all the good qualities of Aryans, people who are advanced. Your character and behavior are always consistent, and you always control your senses and mind, acting just like an ordinary human being. You exhibit exemplary character to teach others how to behave. There is a touchstone that can be used to examine the quality of gold, but you are like a touchstone that can verify all good qualities. You are worshipped by Brahmins, who are the foremost of all devotees. You, the Supreme Person, are the King of Kings, and therefore I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Verse 4. The Lord, and there's no purport to verse 3. Verse 4. The Lord, whose pure form, Satchidananda Vigraha, from first verse of Brahma Samhita, is uncontaminated by the modes of material nature. Okay, so but his pure form, which is uncontaminated by the modes of material nature, can be perceived by pure consciousness. Yeah, the pure can only be perceived by the pure. In the Vedanta, he's described as being one without a second. Because of his spiritual potency, he's untouched by the contamination of material nature. And because he's not subjected to material vision, he's known as transcendental. He has no material activities, nor has he a material form or name. Only in pure consciousness, Krishna consciousness, can one perceive the transcendental form of the Lord. Let us be firmly fixed at the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra, and let us offer our respectful obeisances unto those transcendental lotus feet. Right, let's look at Prabhupada's purport. So Krishna, of course, appears in all sorts of expansions of different types. As Brahma Samhita verse 39 says, Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtan. That's just the first line, but the translation. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, who's always situated in various incarnations, such as Ram, Nrsimha, and many sub-incarnations as well, but who is the original personality of Godhead, known as Krishna, and who incarnates personally also. Right, so all these different expansions, forms, they're all Vishnu Tattva, whose generally Vishnu Tattva is carried by Garuda, have the four symbols of the chakra, the club, the lotus, and the lotus, yeah, the conch and the conch, yeah. So we may doubt that Ram is in the same category as he's carried by Hanuman and not Garuda. And Ram didn't have four hands with those items. So this verse clarifies that Ram is as good as Krishna. Yeah, and is confirmed by Brahma Samhita verse 39. Krishna is the original, but Ram is not different from him. And Ram's unaffected by the modes, so he's prashanta, never disturbed by the modes. Second paragraph, unless you're saturated with love for the Lord, you can't appreciate the value of Lord Ram. You can't see him with material eyes. Ravana had materialized no spiritual vision, so he considered Lord Ram to be an ordinary Kshatriya, and so Ravana tried to steal Sita. Of course, he couldn't carry off Sita in her original form. As soon as he touched her, or tried to touch her, she gave him a material form, but maintained her original form beyond his vision. So Prabhupada says, therefore in this verse, the words pratyak prashantam indicate that Lord Ramachandra and his potency, the goddess Sita, keep themselves aloof from the influence of the material energy. Third paragraph. So, in the Upanishads, Canto Upanishad 1-23, it said that the Supreme Lord, Paramatma, personality of Godhead, can be seen or perceived only by persons who are saturated with devotional service. Brahma Samhita verse 38 says, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Velochanena, famous verse, I worship the primal Lord Govinda, who's always seen by the devotee, whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He's seen in his eternal form of Shamsunda, situated within the heart of the devotee. So there's a similar statement in Chandogya Upanishad, which uses the word anena to distinguish between Atma and Paramatma. Yeah. So anyway, although the Supersoul enters the heart of the Jiva, who's designated by the material body, the Supersoul has nothing to do with the Jivatma's body. Supersoul has no material connections. Therefore he's described in the verse here as anama rupam niraham, has no material identity, whereas the Jivatma does. Jivatma introduces himself Indian, American, South African, etc., Russian, but the Supersoul has no such designations. Jivatma is different from his name, but the Supersoul is not. His name and himself are one and the same. That's the meaning of the term niraham, which appeared just now in the statement, anama rupam niraham. He has no material identity. So this is the meaning here now of niraham, without material designations. So Prabhupada, quoting Prabhupada, this word niraham cannot possibly be twisted to mean that the Paramatma has no ahankara, no I-ness, or no identity. He has his transcendental identity as the Supreme. So Prabhupada says, this is Srila Jiva Goswami's explanation, what we've been reading through just now. So there's another interpretation from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which says, niraham means nirnishchayena aham. Prabhupada says that this means niraham does not mean that the Supreme Lord has no identity. Rather, the stress given by the word aham proves strongly that he does have his personal identity, because nir not only means negative, but also means strong ascertainment, like a strong confirmation. So verse 5. It was ordained that Ravana, chief of the Rakshasas, could not be killed by anyone but a man. And for this reason, Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appeared in the form of a human being. Lord Ramachandra's mission, however, was not only to kill Ravana, but also to teach mortal beings that material happiness centered around sex life or centered around one's wife is the cause of many miseries. He is the self-sufficient Supreme Personality of Godhead, and nothing is lamentable for him. Therefore, why else could he be subjected to tribulations by the kidnapping of Mother Sita? So, Srila Prabhupada comments, when the Lord comes in a human form, he has two purposes: paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya duskritam, to protect the devotees and destroy the demons. So, to protect the devotees, he not only satisfies them with his personal presence, but also teaches them so they don't fall down from devotional service. And by his personal example, he taught them, hear this, devotees, he taught them it is better not to marry, because marriage is followed by many tribulations. And this is confirmed by Srimad Bhagavatam 7.9.45. Yan maitunadi grihamedi sukam hitu cham. Quite famous verse. I'll just give the translation. Kripanas, those who are not advanced in spiritual knowledge and who are therefore just the opposite of brahmanas, generally take to family life, which is a concession for sex. Thus they enjoy sex again and again, although that sex is followed by many tribulations. So this is a warning for devotees. So to teach the lesson, Lord Ram underwent a series of tribulations because of having accepted a wife. Prabhupada says, Lord Ramachandra underwent these austerities, of course, only to instruct us. Actually, he never has any reason to lament for anything. Second paragraph. Another aspect of his instructions is that one who accepts a wife must be a faithful husband and fully protect her. Human society is divided into two categories: those who strictly follow religious principles, means like karma kandiya style, and secondly, those who are devotees. So by his example, Lord Ram wanted to instruct both how to fully adopt the discipline of the religious system and how to be a beloved and dutiful husband. Otherwise, he had no reason to undergo his tribulations. So therefore, one who strictly follows religious principles must provide all facility to protect his wife. And there may be some suffering in that, but one has to endure it. That's the duty of a faithful husband, and by his personal example, Lord Ram demonstrated it. And Prabhupada makes the point he could have replaced Sita with any number of replacements from his pleasure potency, but to show his duty as a faithful husband, he not only rescued Sita, but also killed Ravana. Third paragraph. Another aspect of the teachings of Lord Ram is that although the Lord and his devotees may apparently suffer tribulations, they have nothing to do with them, because they are mukta purushas, they are liberated persons. Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Lila chapter 9 verse 240 says, a Vaishnava is always firmly situated in transcendental bliss because of engagement in devotional service. Although he may appear to suffer material pains, his position is called transcendental bliss in separation, viraha. So, the feelings of separation of the lover and the beloved are actually very blissful, although apparently painful. So Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, therefore, the separation of Lord Ramachandra from Sita Devi, as well as the consequent tribulation they suffered, is but another display of transcendental bliss. That is the opinion of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Isn't this just so interesting? It's amazing. Verse 6. Since Lord Sri Ramachandra is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva, he's not attached to anything in this material world. He's the most beloved supersoul of all self-realized souls, and he's their very intimate friend. He's full of all opulences. Therefore, he could not possibly have suffered because of separation from his wife, nor could he have given up his wife and Lakshman, his younger brother. To give up either would have been absolutely impossible. So, Prabhupada explains that when we talk of the Lord, we say he has his 6 opulences: wealth, fame, strength, influence, beauty, and renunciation. He's called renounced because he's not attached to anything in the material world, but he is attached to the spiritual world and the living entities there, to his devotees. So the affairs of the material world go on under Durga, so he doesn't have to give attention to the material world and what goes on there. But Sita Devi belongs to the spiritual world. Similarly, Lord Lakshman, Ramachandra's younger brother, is a manifestation of Sankarshan, and Lord Ramachandra himself is Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, second paragraph, since the Lord is spiritual and spiritually qualified, he's attached to servants who serve him with love. He's attached to the truth in life, not just Brahminical qualities. Actually, he's never attached to any material qualities. And even though he's the supersoul of all, he specifically manifests to those who are self-realized, and he's especially dear to the devotees. Because he descended to teach humanity how dutiful a king should be, apparently he gave up the company of Sita and Lakshman. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, factually, however, he could not have given them up. One should therefore learn about the activities of Lord Ramachandra from a self-realized soul. Then one can understand the transcendental activities of the Lord. Verse 7, one cannot establish a friendship with the Supreme Lord Ramachandra on the basis of material qualities, such as one's birth in an aristocratic family, one's personal beauty, one's eloquence, one's sharp intelligence, or one's superior race or nation. None of these qualifications is actually a prerequisite for friendship with Lord Sri Ramachandra. Otherwise, how is it possible that although we uncivilized inhabitants of the forest have not taken noble births, although we have no physical beauty, and although we cannot speak like gentlemen, Lord Ramachandra has nevertheless accepted us as friends? This is Hanuman speaking, because he and his associates are monkeys. And there's an explanation, I haven't seen it right here, but it's there somewhere, that Kim Purusha Varsha, where Hanuman lives, it's all the inhabitants are monkeys, and it's called Kim Purusha. Kim Purusha literally means, Kim means like what? Purusha means person. Means what sort of persons are these? They're monkeys. They're not like your sort of normal persons. Yeah. So he's saying that actually we're very unqualified by material standards. No noble births, no physical beauty. We're monkeys, we look like monkeys, we are monkeys. And we can't speak nicely because we're monkeys. But Lord Ramachandra has accepted us as his friends. Yes, because we're devotees. So Queen Kunti, Prabhupada explains, Kunti called Krishna a Kinchana Gochara. A means not, and Kinchana means something of this material world. So Krishna's nothing to do with this material world. Yeah. So one may be proud of his position, wealth, beauty, education, etc., but they don't help to achieve friendship with the Lord. You have to become a devotee. If you have those qualities, position in society, wealth, beauty, education, if you have them, then you must become a devotee. Then the qualities can be useful. But those who are puffed up with these things usually don't care for Krishna consciousness, and the Lord doesn't care about their qualifications. He is achieved by bhakti, devotion. So devotion and a sincere desire to serve the Lord are the only qualifications. Rupa Goswami, you may remember, there's a famous verse that the only price for achieving Krishna's favor is one's sincere eagerness to have it. Chaitanya Bhagavat says, behold the great fortune of the devotee Kolavecha Sridhar. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva shed tears upon seeing his greatness. One cannot attain Lord Krishna by any amount of wealth, followers, or learning. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is controlled only by pure devotion. So this is Kolavecha Sridhar, who was making nothing. He was very poor, selling bananas and banana leaves and other banana products. And he always used 50% of the income to worship the Ganges. He lived in a cottage with a broken roof, many holes, drank water from an iron pot, not brass. But he was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya. Great example of how a poor man can become the most exalted devotee. And Lord Chaitanya loved him. So the conclusion is, you can't get the shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya or Lord Krishna through material opulence, only by pure devotional service. Verse 8. Therefore, whether one is a demigod or demon, a man or a creature other than man, such as a beast or bird, everyone should worship Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears on this earth just like a human being. There's no need of great austerities or penances to worship the Lord, for he accepts even a small service offered by his devotee. Thus he's satisfied, and as soon as he's satisfied, the devotee is successful. Indeed, Lord Sri Ramachandra brought all the devotees of Ayodhya back home, back to Godhead, to Vaikuntha. So, yes, Prabhupada's purport, Lord Ram is so kind to the devotees. He's easily satisfied by just little service from anyone, human or not. And you may know the story of Hanuman and the spider. They're building the bridge to Lanka. Hanuman is carrying big boulders and throwing them in the sea, and they're floating, and this way they're building the bridge. But the spider, who was a devotee, wanted to help. A little spider. So he was picking up like a few grains of sand, just throwing them. And they were floating also. So Hanuman, he was getting in the way of Hanuman. He's running up and down the beach with his big boulders. So Hanuman told him, keep out of the way. Lord Ramachandra came, he heard that, and he didn't appreciate that. And he told Hanuman, I appreciate the spider's service as much as yours, because according to his capacity, he's doing as much as he can as you're doing according to your capacity. So that's the special advantage of worshipping Lord Ram, and also for Lord Chaitanya. Sometimes Krishna and Ram showed their mercy by killing demons, but Lord Chaitanya gave love of God even to demons, easily. So all the incarnations delivered many living entities, but especially Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, later Lord Chaitanya, really delivered many of them. So therefore Lord Chaitanya is sometimes represented in the Sadbhuja form. 2 arms as Krishna, 2 arms as Lord Ram, 2 arms as Lord Chaitanya. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the best purpose of human life can be fulfilled by worshipping the Sadbhuja Murti, the form of the Lord with 6 arms. 2 arms of Ramachandra, 2 arms of Krishna, 2 arms of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Second section, verse 9 to verse 11, Lord Naranarayan appears in Bharatvarsha to favor his devotees. Verse 9, Shukadeva Goswami continued, the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are inconceivable. He has appeared in the form of Naranarayan in the land of Bharatvarsha, at the place known as Badrik Ashram, to favor his devotees by teaching them religion, knowledge, renunciation, spiritual power, sense control, and freedom from false ego. He is advanced in the opulence of spiritual assets, and he engages in executing austerity until the end of this millennium. This is the process of self-realization. Verse 10, in his own book known as Narada Pancharatra, Bhagavan Narada has very vividly described how to work to achieve the ultimate goal of life, devotion, through knowledge and through execution of the mystic yoga system. He's also described the glories of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The great sage Narada instructed the tenets of this transcendental literature to Savarni Manu, in order to teach those inhabitants of Bharatvarsha who strictly follow the principles of Varnashram Dharma how to achieve the devotional service of the Lord. Thus Narada Muni, along with the other inhabitants of Bharatvarsha, always engages in the service of Naranarayan, and he chants as follows. Verse 11. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Naranarayan, the best of all saintly persons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the most self-controlled and self-realized. He's free from self-prestige, and he is the asset of persons who have no material possessions. He's the spiritual master of all Paramahamsas, who are the most exalted human beings, and he is the master of the self-realized. Let me offer my repeated obeisances at his lotus feet. Right, so again, verse 9, Shukadeva Goswami continued, the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are inconceivable. He's appeared in the form of Naranarayan in the land of Bharatvarsha, at the place known as Badrik Ashram, to favor his devotees by teaching them religion, knowledge, renunciation, spiritual power, sense control, and freedom from false ego. He's advanced in the opulence of spiritual assets, and he engages in executing austerity until the end of this millennium. This is the process of self-realization. Yes, so Prabhupada comments that people in India can visit the temple of Naranarayan at Badrik Ashram just to learn how the Lord, as Naranarayan, does austerities, to teach people how to achieve self-realization. And it's impossible to realize the self by speculation and material activities. You have to be serious about austerities and penances. But unfortunately, the people in Kali Yuga don't know the meaning of this. Therefore, the Lord appeared as Lord Chaitanya to give the easiest process of self-realization, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, the cleansing of the heart, cleansing the heart of dirt. It's very simple. Just chant Hare Krishna. Don't worry about advanced scientific knowledge like anthropology, Marxism, etc. You'll just waste your time. Verse 10. In his own book known as Narada Pancharatra, Bhagavan Narada has very vividly described how to work to achieve the ultimate goal of life, devotion, through knowledge and through execution of the mystic yoga system. He's also described the glories of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The great sage Narada instructed the tenets of this transcendental literature to Savarni Manu in order to teach those inhabitants of Bharatvarsha who strictly follow the principles of Varnashram Dharma how to achieve the devotional service of the Lord. Thus Narada Muni, along with the other inhabitants of Bharatvarsha, always engages in the service of Naranarayan, and he chants as follows. So, okay, the purport. So Narada is instructing the people of Bharatvarsha, and Lord Chaitanya has declared that the people of Bharatvarsha should become perfect and then distribute Krishna consciousness. Because the real success of the mission of life can be achieved in India, Bharatvarsha. Because there, it's all so much more obvious, more evident. What is the purpose of life? What's the method for achieving it? So therefore people should take advantage of Bharatvarsha, especially those who are following Varnashram. But even if you don't follow Varnashram, you can still achieve success in life. Well, actually, what Prabhupada says, if we don't follow Varnashram, we cannot achieve success in life. But now in Kali Yuga, the people there have become degraded Malechas and Yavanas. I mean, so many have. Really a lot are eating meat. So now they're not qualified to teach others. So the Krishna consciousness movement has been started, not just for them, but for all people. And there's still time, so if the inhabitants of Bharatvarsha take to the Krishna consciousness movement seriously, the whole world can be saved. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the Krishna consciousness movement follows the process of Panchatrika Vidhi and that of Bhagavat Vidhi simultaneously, so that people can take advantage of the movement and make their lives successful. Verse 11. Let me offer my respectful, this is the verse Narada Muni chants, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Naranarayan, the best of all saintly persons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the most self-controlled and self-realized. He's free from false prestige. And he's the asset of persons who have no material possessions. He's the spiritual master of all Paramahansas, who are the most exalted human beings. And he's the master of the self-realized. Let me offer my repeated obeisances at his lotus feet. So what I'll do, I'll stop here, and we'll carry on tomorrow with the next section, section 3. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.